In this video, we'll take a look at some of Excel's date and time functions. By the end of the video, you'll have a basic understanding of how Excel handles dates and times. This video was made using Microsoft Excel 2019. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and pitch Microsoft's support website at this web address. They have one dedicated to just date and time functions. And there are quite a number of date and time functions. Many of them are highly specialized and really only useful in certain situations. We'll just focus on a few of the basic ones that are most useful in this video, but this is an excellent website if you need a date or time function. Let's talk about dates first. If I go to any cell, you'll notice it has a general format right now, but if I type a date into that cell, and by date I mean any format that Excel might recognize as a date, and let's use today's date of March 20th, 2021. Once I input that date and hit enter, the format of this cell has been changed to a date because Excel recognizes what I typed as a date and it changed the format for me. Excel recognizes various inputs as dates. If I come down to this cell A3 and I type in January 1, 1900, it will also recognize and reformat that cell as a date. Dates in Excel are numbers. If I were to copy these cells over to this column and reformat them in a general or a number format, let's go with general, you'll notice that this date has been assigned the number 1. This is where Excel started counting the dates on January 1st, 1900. Today's date is 44,275 days after day 1. So once you realize this, you can add and subtract dates like numbers and get to other dates. To illustrate this, let's put a line here and subtract these dates. We'll take today's date minus January 1st, 1900, and we get to 44,274. And that works the same on both columns. If we wanted to, we could go ahead and reformat this cell as a date. And we get to yesterday's date. We've taken today's date, subtracted one day, and gotten to yesterday's date. Some people might wonder what happens if you type in a date before January 1st, 1900. Excel does not recognize this as a date. It did not convert it, and if I try to convert it, I can convert it, but this date does not have a serial number associated with it. If I try to subtract that date from today's date, I get an error. So dates before January 1st, 1900 are not the same. They kind of register as dates in Excel, but they can't be added or subtracted. So basically, we're talking about formulas that apply to dates on or after January 1st, 1900. A good trivia question is, what's the highest date into the future you can enter into Excel? I experimented with this a little bit and found it to be December 31st, 9999, which is interesting because the next day on the calendar after this, the year would flip over to a 5-digit year, and I guess Excel doesn't have the capacity to handle that. But if I convert this to a number, it works. I think we'll be using something other than Excel by then. Probably the most useful date function is the today function. You enter it like this with an open and close parent afterward. What that function does is read the current date from your operating system. In this case, I'm using Windows 10, And when you set up Windows 10 on a new computer or do a Windows 10 installation over an older operating system, it usually asks you what time zone you're in. So if I were to wait up until midnight in my time zone and 1 second after midnight hit the F9 key, this would flip over to March 21st, 2021. You can use the today function to set a very simple reminder, and this is a very simple example. Let's say I want to show today's date here, so I'll just enter the today function. That's today's date. And I have a report due on next Friday, March 26th. So I could use this cell to remind me that my report is due on the 26th, and after the 26th, flag me that that report is overdue. How would I do that? Let's use the if function. If today is greater than Friday's serial date, which you would have to know, and that's 44,281. If today exceeds that date, then I want to be told that my report is overdue. Otherwise, I'd like to be told that my report is due Friday. So for now, this report is due Friday, but Friday night at midnight, when today's date flips over to March 27th, this will change to report overdue. That's a very simple example, but you can use the today function to read from the operating system's calendar and set all sorts of tripwires and alarm bells in your worksheets. Another very useful function is the end of the month function. It returns the last day of a month tied to a date that you specify. So it goes like this. End of month. You have to enter a start date, and in this case I want to fix that date. I don't want to tie it to reading from today function or anything else. So I'm going to make that 44,281 just because I know that date is in March. And you put the number of months into the future. So since I want the last day of the month that this date falls in, I'm going to enter a 0. If I wanted the last day of next month, I would enter a 1 there. So my last day of the month is March 31st, 2021. Now I want to set an alarm bell here that goes off after this date has passed, because I don't have all the data I need to do my report until that last day of the month has passed. So effectively, I want this to be flagged on the first of the next month. How would I do that? I would do it like this. I'd say if today is greater than this end of the month day, report due, otherwise no data. That's another very simple example of how you can have a cell's status change based upon date. In addition to dates, Excel can recognize times and time-date groups. If I enter into this cell today's date, skip one space, and then enter 12 noon, Excel recognizes this as a date-time group and assigns a custom format. Let's see if we can find that custom format. Custom format, month, day, year, and then hours and minutes. Now if I convert this cell to a number, notice this is 12 noon on March 20th. Let's put that in a either general or number format. And you get today's serial date plus a 0.5, because 12 noon is 0.5 through the 1.0 day. Let's put that back in the same format. And I'm going to enter another date down here. Let's go with yesterday at 12 noon. And we'll subtract these two dates. So that gives us an answer of 1. If I were to copy these cells over here and redo the format, you can see where it's getting that answer of 1. This 1 represents the 24-hour period between noon on the 19th and noon on the 20th. So you can do fractional days based on hours with date time groups. If I were to change this 12 noon to 6 p.m., which actually registers as 1800 over here, but 6 p.m. up here, this 1 becomes 0.75. I've only got 18 hours instead of the full 24 over here. If you want to get more precise within the period of a day with your timing, you can use the now function. It works much like the today function, and it reports back a date time group. If you format this for a format that shows the seconds, you can actually hit the F9 key repeatedly and watch the seconds flip over. While the today function flips over once a day at midnight if you hit the F9 key or reopen the workbook, the now function will update continuously. Every time you hit the F9 key, you should see those seconds flipping over, or anytime you reopen the workbook. You can use the now function just like the today function if you want to get more precise. So in this cell, I've simply entered a date and a time. This is next Friday at 12 noon. And I've modified my formula a little bit to say now instead of today. And I've changed my 44281 to 44281.5, which would trigger this report overdue statement at noon on Friday. Otherwise, it'll say report due Friday between now and then. This video has covered the most basic date and time functions available in Excel. If you need a more specialized function, I definitely recommend you check out the Microsoft link described earlier in the video. I invite you to please consider becoming a subscriber to my channel, and if not, give me a comment or a thumbs up. Don't forget to check the video description for a link to a song performed by Leonid and Friends, the greatest cover band ever, performing the Chicago song, Does Anybody Really Know What Time It Is? Thanks for visiting Spreadsheet Geek.